Hey guys, welcome back. Last year I published class bottles. This included discussion of the current suspension list that USAG and SafeSport posts online. I've since re-examined the list to compare and contrast who is on the list, if it has been resolved, and additional problems that I've found since then. I'm going to simply break it down through color coding. Yellow highlighters are going to show that I discussed them in the last year, and then the red coding is going to show who is new. And I'll look up who has recently been added and as to why they may be on the list and what gym they may be affiliated with. Once I'm done introducing people, I'll then move on to who is no longer on the list, but was last year, and refresh your memory why they may have made this list. Then we will look at who has made the ban list since last year. Finally, I will discuss who should be on the list and who is not currently on the list. We will also look at those who have been added and removed, or vice versa, and all of the challenges that have become a part of that process. Now remember, when we go through this, there is a post-resolution, and then there's also a pending resolution. So the post-resolution is like the Maggie Haney situation, where they've already figured out a punishment, and typically there's some sort of suspension, and depending on the length, depends on typically the severity of this post-resolution. The pending resolution is when someone has had accusations of abuse that is concerning enough for SafeSport to conduct an investigation. The investigation is then ongoing and will have some sort of resolution. This either includes someone being placed on the ban list, having a suspension on the post-resolution, or being found to not have abused children, and then no punishment is given. So I'm going to start off with the post-resolution list. And I still struggle to pronounce some of these words, so it'll be fun that I still get to butcher some names. So the first one I have is Pijan PJ Chai in Washington for the U.S. Center of SafeSport. And when I say if it's either U.S. Center or USAG, that determines who has put them on the list, okay? And what I'm reading off is USAG's list. This is not SafeSport list. Now, if you get onto the SafeSport database, you will see some of these people, but not everybody, okay? So, Pajan PJ Chai from Washington, U.S. Center for SafeSport. No unsupervised contact with minors or participants. He's from Metropolitan Gymnastics. He worked as recent as 2017, received numerous awards as a good compulsory coach. LinkedIn states that he is a program director, and I'm not sure if he has updated this or not. He may still be there, but it doesn't list coaches online. Paul Daniel, Arizona, by USAG. I didn't get anything on him, and if you search him, be careful, because you're going to get results of a guy who's currently on the ban list. I have looked into him. Yeah, I would be careful not to get the two mixed up because we don't know much about this guy. Julie Fair, Michigan, by the Center, suspended from all contact, director of AGA Training Center since at least December 1st, 2015. Mike Garrow from Wisconsin, he's new, from the Center. And wow, I don't know why he's not on the ban list. So his alleged molestation and inappropriate fascination with girls dates all the way back to 2012. Then again, more discussion in 2018, but it took many more months before he was released from that coaching position, which was through a local school. And then he went to another school district, and more allegations came out in 2020. So this is less than, or about 2 years later. Now, we don't have any new information since these 2020 allegations, but if anyone speaks up, I'll give you guys an update as soon as I find out. So we don't have anything new for 2023, but we are seeing those 2020 allegations is the most recent thing that we've got right now. So Maggie Haney, New Jersey, USAG, and it lists a specific bylaw. They don't always list a specific bylaw, but this one does. And we've recently discussed her. I talk about her all the time. You can go back to my videos and get more information on her if you choose to do so. Jonathan Lee, North Dakota by USAG. No unsupervised contact. I couldn't find anyone living in North Dakota last year as a male gymnastic coach. So that's what I had on him. Now we're going to move on to Victoria Levine, New Jersey, USAG. If you remember, she was kind of with Maggie Haney, kind of the sidekick, if you will. So I've also discussed her in the past, and she's suspended from all contact. Max Lively, Texas, by the center. Listed sexual misconduct, probation, no contact directives. Just has a suspension. Used to train at Eagle Gymnastics, at least to 2018. Does not list on the website if he's associated with them and if he's working there or not. William Bill Sherm, I think that's how you say it, out in Florida from the center, no unsupervised contact with minors, works or may have worked at South Florida Gymnastics, and I don't know if he still works there because the website doesn't list current coaches. Melinda Small, Rhode Island, by the center, suspended from all contact, and I couldn't figure out where they coach or why she may be on the list. Matt Zolich, that's what I'm going to say. Georgia, by USAG. It has a bylaw. Like I said, they don't always have a bylaw, but some of them do. Suspended from all contact. Head coach Jerome Ariels. Not sure what he did. So if we look at these post resolutions, we have, let's see. Julie Fair shouldn't be here next year if I do this again. Looks like we also have Jonathan Lee should be removed next year, and then everybody else should be staying.
Now, if you look at Matt Zolich's, there are some issues when comparing USAG to SafeSport. The first thing is that USAG doesn't show a duration, whereas SafeSport confirms that it was in 2019. USAG also lists a suspension, whereas SafeSport states that he is ineligible. They both match statements that he violated USAG's bylaws, but the states aren't matching. SafeSport lists him in Oregon, and USAG is Georgia. So which is it? Of course, I've had no luck trying to find an answer.
All right, now we're going to move on to the pending resolution, and there are some more people that are new compared to the post resolution. Okay. So Kevin Anderson, Wisconsin, by the center. No unsupervised contact with minors. Sounds like he may be at Stars Gymnastics Academy, and he works alongside his girlfriend. I found it as a 2023. They were in a 2021 article. They were supporting Simone Biles' decision from the 2020 Olympics and how she pulled out. So that was just a little bit of background on him. David Arnold in Georgia by the center. He is suspended from all contact. This isn't a new guy. In April 2022, he was caught and charged with inappropriate pictures of gymnasts. He worked at Paramount Gymnastics. He has his own website and podcast, which provides gymnastic coaching and tips. And I'm not sure if he still works at Paramount or not. Now, Sarek Barrios in Georgia. He's with the center and he is new. Suspended from all contact, and I don't have a lot of info. He may be more of a cheerleading coach who works at a gymnastic facility, and I don't know what the gym is, but that's my thought on kind of his background. So Brian Blewett in Kentucky by the center, suspended from all contact, owner of Competitive Edge Gymnastics, and I don't know his information. Dan Brewing, Kansas, by the center. No unsupervised contact with minors, owner of Wichita Gymnastics. He must have been reported within the last 2 years this last year. So if you can't tell, some of this information, I'm just cutting and pasting from last year because none of it's really new. Again, that's why some of this is highlighted and some of this isn't. So he must have been reported in the last 2 years, now be the last 3 years, because his wife was featured in a local magazine about her success at Wichita Gymnastics, which was in 2020, so that would have been 3 years ago. So, Bill Callender, Arizona by the center. No unsupervised contact with minors. Former coach at various gyms, including Charter Oak Gymnastics, Wildfire Gymnastics, Kips Gymnastics, and recent head coach of Flagstaff Gymnastics as of 2021. Today, he no longer works at Flagstaff, and the head coach position was given to someone else in the community. He has been in the business for over 43 years and helped coach Vanessa Atler and various other NCAA athletes. And I'm not sure if he's coaching today or why he's under investigation. Pablo Capote, or Pablo Capote, in Texas by the center. Suspended from all contact, he was a former Venezuelan gymnast who used to work at Above the Bar Gymnastics. And the most recent post I could find of him was in 2015, so I'm not really sure if he's still there or if he's coaching somewhere else. The website I'm referring to doesn't, of course, list which coaches are still at the gym. Jack Carter, Arizona, by the center. No unsupervised contact with minors. Now, this is the only person, and this is interesting, but he is the only person that is listed physically on the USAG list from Parkettes. Because if you remember, there's supposed to be a couple currently on the list, but we do not see them. So we will talk about that in a little bit. So this person, like I said, worked at Parkettes, and I've discussed him because uniquely, he was actually the coach who unknowingly filmed Sanglan's fault that resulted in her paralysis, and people demanded this tape to be released, newspaper companies, and he actually refused to do this, and to this day, he's never leaked it for just privacy and safety of the family. So he opened a gym in Arizona 20 years ago with his wife, and I'm assuming, so technically this would have been 21 years ago. So I'm assuming he's under investigation because of the list of coaches, abusive claims from Parkettes. I don't know if he's on the list for recent allegations or if this is Parkettes, but I'm going to think Parkettes. Maybe the owner of Vision Gymnastics. I don't know any other information. Dante Gallardo, California by the center. All contact. I'm unsure of the gym affiliation, but he may have been a college-level gymnast. Christopher Garces, Illinois by the center. Suspended from all contact, and according to LinkedIn, he is possibly the head coach of Rise Up Gymnastics. And this website doesn't list coaches, so, I never know if they're currently a coach or not. Sometimes I wish they would list that so that we can not risk associating somebody with a gym who may be a victim of this. Sean Gardner, Iowa by the center. No unsupervised contact with minors. This one upset me last year because he was at Chow's. He was the head coach, at least during the 2020 season. And Chow's doesn't have anybody on their website, so we don't know if he was still with Chow's at the time when I was recording this last year. So Jamie Gossett, California by the center. No unsupervised contact. Head coach at Galaxy Gymnastics. Austin Hall, Mississippi by the center. All contact. Allegations of misconduct. And I'm not sure on him because my results came up with Tennessee, not Mississippi. So there is an Austin that works or did work at Wimbledon Gymnastics, which is in Tennessee. That's why I'm getting those results. It's possible that he may have worked there before he was on the list, but I don't feel confident when the person is at a gym in another state. Jihan, North Carolina by the center. No unsupervised contact. I've discussed him many times. He's at Everest. It's one of the gyms that, oh my goodness, I've discussed him in Glass Bottles. I've discussed him before I worked on Glass Bottles. He was actually one of the first people I discussed, and he should not be around anymore. So it is interesting to see him back on the list because I think it was 2017 or 2018 that he was on the list. So it's interesting to see him back on the list. John Holman, Pennsylvania by the center. No unsupervised contact with minors, and he was also previously discussed on my channel. I think that it was under Glass Bottles. Ron Howard, California by the center. This is a new one. Like I said, there's not many new ones, but this is one of the new ones. So no unsupervised contact with minors. He may be head coach at EGA Gymnastics or EGA Gymnastics. And if it's the same one, he was also at Elevate Gymnastics in the 2000s. And he has a long history with USAG. So he's trained national team members, Hall of Famers, former Olympians, etc. And I'll definitely keep an eye on him if that's the right person, because USAG has acted differently over the years about, giving correct punishment and kind of brushing people under the rug, if you will, when they have a history with USAG compared to some other ones. Barry Hyder, Arkansas by the center, suspended from all contact. I also have a video that just discusses him if you ever want to look back at it. Edward Larov, Texas by the center, no unsupervised allegations of misconduct. He was charged in 2021 for sexual abuse. He was not indicted in 2021, though. And then he was placed on the list in 2022, but I don't know exactly why. So Terry Lampo, Tennessee by the center, suspended from all contact. He's the owner of Spirit Gymnastics and Cheerleading. This gym is temporarily closed as of 2022, and I'm not sure what he's under investigation for. Tammy Marshall, New York, by USAG, a specific bylaw. No unsupervised contact with minors. She was the owner of Infinity Elite Gymnastics. I don't know what happened, but GK recently spoke highly of them in the past couple of years.
Richard and Russell Mast, Kansas by the center, all contact. Former owners of Funtastic Gymnastics, a well-respected gym in the area.
They used to own a gym called Funtastics, which closed a couple years ago. They reopened under a new gym in another city, but I cannot confirm if it's still around. There are claims that Richard molested at least one girl, which was in the 1990s, and that Russell has also had abusive claims, though we aren't sure what those include.
Justin Millerburned, Indiana by the center. Suspended from all contact, highly recognized trampoline coach by USAG. He was there for over 21 years in the industry, and he's been under investigation since 2020. Nancy Moore, Michigan. We're going to discuss her later. Jeremy Nevers, Ohio by the center. No unsupervised contact with minors. I couldn't find any info on where he is or what gym he may be at. Douglas Persham, Pennsylvania by the center. No unsupervised, owner of Erie Gymnastics. Travis Seafried, Ohio by USAG. No unsupervised. There was a lawsuit in 2022, so last year, from a former gymnast who allegedly was going after him for emotional abuse from a head coach whose name was Travis. That may have been him, but I can't fully conclude it. Andrew Smith, Washington by the center. No unsupervised, and I'm not sure because his name is too generic. He could be at NASCA Gymnastics, but I don't have much to go off of. That is a pretty epic name, though, for a gym, I will say. That's pretty cool. Gary Smith, Louisiana, USAG, no unsupervised. He may be the owner of Acadriana Gymnastics Training Center. Jessica Smith, Louisiana by the center. No unsupervised, and again, this is another generic name, so it's hard to find strong evidence. She's related to somebody who's in a big state. Oh, gosh, these names. Herabrina Spencer, West Virginia by the center. No unsupervised contact. She may be at Bozzy's Gymnastics. She is the daughter of two former national Bulgarian team members, and she was also a national team member in the 80s. Lance Spencer, also West Virginia, by the center, suspended from all contact, also may be at Bozzy's gym. And if this is the same person, he has coached since 1984 at more than at least, probably two or more gyms. What's interesting is I don't know if these two are related or not because they both have the same last name. Sounds like both of them have been, around for quite some time. They're both supposedly at the same gym, same last name. So I don't know if they're connected, but, one can obviously infer that they may be. Okay, Donald Spalding, suspended from all contact, coaches at St. Louis Gym Center as of 2022. Has been helping coach Connor McCool, which is a promising male gymnast. Tyler Vandenberg, California by the center. No unsupervised contact with minors. I'm only getting a person under a different name, the last name spelled differently, so I don't have any information on him because that was a different Tyler. And then the last 4 I'm going to read aren't new. Okay, Alexander Vorboyev, Illinois by the center. No unsupervised contact. He's a former Ukrainian gymnast who excelled in the late 2000s, but I don't know what gym he was coaching at before being put on the list. Franklin Winstead, North Carolina by the center. Suspended from all contact. Currently coaches at Southeastern Gymnastics and is listed on a coach on the website. Now, parents spoke in June of 2022 about frustrations with him because SafeSport was still allowing him, along with the gym, to coach while he was under investigation, which is very common because technically SafeSport does not, they can't just prohibit them from being at that gym. They did not discuss what he was under investigation for. Wilbur Philip Wortman, Florida, by USAG. No unsupervised contact with minors, should be associated with gymnastics, etc., and says that he's either a director or is the president of the gym, but I don't know much about his investigation. So here's the last one. Troy Wright, Alabama by the center, suspended from all contact, may have recently coached at Pennsylvania Gymnastics Academy, and if it's the same guy, he's traveled a lot. He's lived in Oklahoma and Tennessee, though this is connecting him to Alabama. Not sure what his whereabouts are. I don't know much on him. So we're going to now discuss who has been removed from the temporary suspended list from last year. Everybody should know that if I do this next year as a follow-up, comparing 2023 to 2024, I'm not going to be discussing these people, since this is comparing and contrasting 2022's list to 2023's list. So I'm not going to go past a year of data. So this will most likely be the last time that I discuss these people, unless they are found to be under misconduct again. Then in that case, I may talk about them in the future. So Casey Blackwell, South Carolina, by USAG, she was suspended from all contact. This gym she worked for, Gym Masters Gym Academy, is permanently closed in 2021. It may sound like it may have been a family-owned gym. Not sure if she longer coaches there or somewhere else. Gosh, this name I butchered so bad last year. Lavenji Baganasuk, I think that's it. Illinois by USAG. A relative of his competes and was featured on Flow Gymnastics in 2021. This could be a man that works at Gymkhana, where the relative Sasha, he was one, like I said, that was featured on Flow Gymnastics. And I'm not sure if this person still works or did work there, because I couldn't find anything on if they were female or if they were male. This person was just harder to get information on. Jason Button, Kentucky, by USAG, director at Champion Gymnastics. He spoke in 2017, making it sound like he understood the consequences of sexual assault. Kind of be hypocritical if he was found to actually be harming children. Persis Carter, Texas, USAG. I've located a Change.com petition stating that this coach, who owns Flawless Gymnastics, has slammed a child's head against a concrete wall and caused memory loss. The claims also showed threatening harm with the baseball bat, and it was not a fun video to watch. Ute Heger, Illinois, by the center, head trampoline coach at Gymnastics Academy in Rockford. Website only lists coach awards and coaches who currently work there, so I didn't know if he was still there. Chauncey Hayden, Oklahoma, by the center, formerly worked at Bart Connors Gymnastics as a men's team coach, has a long resume with USAG, and is currently the head coach at Oklahoma Extreme Tumbling. But remember, that was last year, so I don't know. Cameron Kodiak Kerfoot, Georgia, by USAG, suspended from all contact, may be working at World of Gymnastics and cheer. Website doesn't list current coaches. I'm not sure what he's doing today. Nicole Lord, Virginia, USAG. Couldn't find anything on a coach in Virginia, and we've discussed this many times. It's hard to find people if they don't have like a unique first name, unique last name, because these are both very basic names. It's trickier. Davita Ivy, South Carolina, USAG, owner of Davita's Fantastic Gymnastics. Abdul Mamari, Maryland, USAG, former Algerian national team member, and he's worked with at least 3 different gyms. This includes Rebounders Gymnastics. He coached Donald Wittenberg. He was on the 2021 World Champions team. I don't know if he works now or if he still works there. It looks like the website doesn't currently list their coaches. Ron Manera, California, USAG, former UC Davis assistant women's gymnastic coach, and he was also a member of the university's physical education faculty. He's been on the roster since 2018. I don't know what gym he comes from. I don't know if he's still there. Kevin Mazika, Texas by the Center. Mazika was a former men's team coordinator for USAG from 2009 to 2016, and then in 2021, an 8-year-old gymnast reported to her family an injury to SafeSport. They're saying that Kevin was responsible for this back injury. The lawyer claimed, though, that although he is the owner of the gym, he was not in the gym or responsible for, and then was reporting this to SafeSport isn't, a requirement. Brendan Modest, New Jersey by USAG, a young current coach. He was at Champions United Gymnastics Academy. Randall Owens, Michigan, USAG. If I had the right person, then they were currently coaching at Kids Gymnastics in Michigan as of 2022. But again, the website doesn't list who's currently there. Darren Pieper, New Jersey, USAG. There was a Darren that was at Jungle Gym and Bounce that was listed as a coach. Again, this website doesn't let us know if they're there or not. Ardo O. Pozo, Pennsylvania, USAG. Should be at Gym Olympic Sports Academy. Joseph Raymond, Texas by the Center. Coach at Maximum Gymnastics at the Woodlands. This gym has had sexual abuse in the mid-2000s and claims that Joseph has touched a male gymnast in 2021 and was under investigation in 2022. Brianna Rhodes, Ohio, USAG. Could have come from Emeth Gymnastics, but social media shows that they are no longer there. Does have a coaching social media account, so I don't know if it's related or not. William Sherm was there at the time. He's now moved to Post Resolution, so he's irrelevant. Jacob Severstry, Arizona, USAG, may have been a college gymnast. He may have had times with New Hope Gymnastics. Peter Soul, California/Texas. And that's an interesting one because why are they associated with 2 different states? Why is it just one and not the other? So, U.S. Center, according to LinkedIn, he worked at Technique Kids Activity Center, but again, this website doesn't let us know. Could have also been at Liberty Gymnastics Training Center. Jenna Golding, Illinois by the Center. No unsupervised contact. I was struggling to find a gym under that name, probably because she actually has 2 last names under it. Maybe one's maiden name and the other one's a married name. I don't know. Risha Story, Kentucky, USAG. No unsupervised contact with minors. Current coach at Champion Gymnastics in Kentucky. Patricia Stupin, New Jersey, USAG. Should be working at Indigo Gymnastics Center. Happy that the website provides a staff tab, but there was actually nobody to view when I looked earlier this year. Mike Swives, Illinois by the Center, may have been coaching at Buffalo Grove Gymnastics Center, and if that's the case, I don't know what he's currently doing now, because that gym actually closed in 2020. So it sounds like he was an owner or some sort of businessman or may have been coaching somewhere else when he was put on the list. Macy Watson, Virginia, USAG, may have been a business owner and working at G-Force Gymnastics. I'm not sure of her status because their website wasn't providing coach descriptions. So now that I'm done with that, we're going to move on to the post-resolution list. So I'm going to read those who are no longer on the list of the post-resolution suspended list because they've served their suspension time that expired between 2022 and 2023. So again, this is like the category that Maggie Haney's under, just so that we don't get those two categories mixed up. So Michelle Gotti, Oklahoma, date was 12/3/2022. Worked at SSB Kids of Tulsa Gymnastics. Holly Keith, 6/14/2023. She was with the Center. Chow's Gymnastics Booster Club Director as of 2017. She was given probation for failure to report, willing full tolerance, and abusive process. Let's go on. Douglas Miram, Wisconsin, was removed 1/28/2023, suspended from all contact at the time, worked at Prairie Kids Club. Christian McLean, New York, was removed 5/27/2023, was told that she emotionally abused athlete at Chelsea Piers Gymnastics. This person was interesting because a GoFundMe was created for her since she was fired from the gym. They were asking for only $40,000. Carly Jensen, Arizona, was removed 4/15/2023, works at Rebound Gymnastics, or worked there. Brandon Sandoval, Texas, was removed 5/27/2022. Not sure what happened, but works at Sandoval Gymnastics. Doesn't list that he's a founder, so he's most likely a relative. So now we're going to discuss those who have made the ban list since our discussion from last year.
We don't know what Tony Whitaker did, but he was placed on the list May 2nd, 2023, and resides in Illinois. Adam Jacobs was indicted April 13th, 2023, for owning child porn and other things, including placing a hidden video camera in a bathroom while children changed. This is very common, and many people on the list have done this before. Timothy Rogers was placed on the list March 22nd, 2023, though I don't know why. Mike Spiller molested children for over 2 decades and was placed on the list December 13th, 2022.
I'm not sure what Roy Peregrina did, but he was placed on the list May 9th, 2023. In June 2023, Sasha Rott was charged with first-degree aggravated sexual assault and 3 counts of second-degree sexual assault for molesting 3 known children in the 1990s and as recent as 2008.
The last one is Nicholas Adair, who was arrested for owning child porn and was placed on the list June 7th, 2022.
For reflection, there's a lot of things to unpack based on my findings. And we currently have 10 people on this suspended list and 3 people that were removed since last year. And there's no reason as to why they were removed. So the people that were removed on this post-resolution list, that was David Carson. Minnesota, was supposed to stay until 2024. I didn't have any information, but he was there for the Center. Richard Fiorentino, Pennsylvania by the Center, owner of Burke's gymnastic coach who was sued by an employee for sexual misconduct. While previously a gymnast, she sued him in 2017. There was a settlement. And then Nancy Moore.
Nancy Moore was placed on the list March 2023 for allegations of refusing to list a concussion protocol and forcing at least one gymnast to compete with a fracture. Nancy was able to waiver the 2-year suspension just over a month later when she was found to not be guilty of these actions. The investigation has now been reopened, which has placed her back onto the pending resolution list and removed from the post-resolution list. What's interesting is that if she's found to be guilty, does this mean that she will add time to already 2-year suspension, or will those 2 years be waived like they previously were? It is also uncommon to see someone placed back on the pending list after being removed, but this adds a whole new twist.
Now, based on my findings, there's 3 people who are still on the list that were placed in 2019. The person who has been on the list the longest is John Holman. There is also 2 people on the list that were placed in 2020. Then we have 5 people from 2021. We have 10 people from 2022, 8 people from this year. There is also 9 people who are unaccounted for because we don't know a timeline of when they're placed. Now, if you get onto the Safe Sports Center database, you will see a date of when they were placed. However, USAG, when they do an investigation, they do not provide a date of when this began. So this is another issue, because why does SafeSport provide us a date of when the investigation starts and USAG cannot provide us a date of when the investigation has started? That's a problem. There's also 2 people who are not on the SafeSport database, but they are stated to be on USAG. So if you go onto the website, you will see that Bill Callender and Jeremy Nevers are not on SafeSport, but they are on USAG, and USAG claims that they are on SafeSport. I don't know what the time that they were placed on for this investigation, because like I said, USAG does not provide a date. Even if they're on SafeSport, they don't provide a date, period. Doesn't matter if they're under investigation by SafeSport or under investigation by USAG. USAG doesn't give us any of that. So in total, there's actually 11 people that we don't know of a date and when they were placed on the list. It could have been this past year, or it could be 5 years. We have no idea. Now let's move on to the pending resolution list and how there is confusion on deadlines. And there is an issue with the numbers provided because some of these people on the list have been here for quite some time, whereas others, like I discussed earlier this year, Rick Newman could be one, for example, was removed in under a year. He's not on the list anymore. Now, is this negligence on their end? Or is this not necessarily something that both SafeSport and USAG could control, just based on the length of time that it takes for trial and other legal disputes to be finalized? I'm going to let you make your own conclusions on this. But the bottom line is that there are some people who are still on the list for 5 years, and they shouldn't be still on this list. This makes me think if there is a maximum time limit for how long someone can be on the list. And if so, is the maximum time 5 years? And if there isn't a deadline, should we consider creating one? Say 3 years, maybe more years, maybe less? And what about if we aren't able to honor a deadline? Should there be more punishment depending on how long someone is on the said list? Should there be more restrictions than originally issued? Or is that not necessary? Now, finally, let's discuss something that I kind of touched upon in glass bottles, but I don't think I did enough discussion because it is very important. SafeSport is still not putting top-level elite coaches on the list. Why? If you log on today, you are not going to see Al Fong. You're not going to see any of the Parkettes coaches. You're not going to see Valeri Lukin. And there's many others who we've been told to be on SafeSport's investigation list in the last 3 years. But I have never seen any of them on this list. That makes us all wonder, why is it okay to exclude more popular coaches when we know that they're on the list? We've had people expose that they are on the list. Why does SafeSport and USAG feel like they can hide this information from us? And it again makes us question, is SafeSport and USAG trying to protect their kids? Or are they still trying to protect their reputation by protecting their coaches by not putting these popular people on the list? I'll let you decide. And as always, if there's anything else I see about these popular coaches being placed on a list or finding more allegations that they should be on the list and haven't been yet, I'll keep you guys updated.